are you? Who are you together and who are you separately?
Um, Together we are a husband and wife of 14, 14 and a half years, give or take, going on 15 in July. We are the parents of three beautiful children, two boys, one girl, um, one teenager. One is about to hit double digits. The other's about to hit double digits, and then we got one, our youngest one, who sort of runs the house, and you can see, that's the girl. But we are evolving individuals, evolving parents, evolving educators, community members, and we love the Lord. We serve a wonderful congregation in Cleveland. That's us collectively. I can speak since we are the Mortons, but I can let her speak for herself on who she is and um,
Okay.
yeah.
I am Yolanda Monique Grady Morton. I am a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, a friend. I'm a school counselor. I've been a school counselor and in education for the past 17 years. And I am one that is, I'm extremely passionate about service and education, helping helping individuals. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that in my work, as well as my ministry. So I am happy to be his wife because we get to do life together and it's pretty amazing. It's fun to have grown over so many years together. He said we're parents. I absolutely love being a mother. Always wanted to be one. So I'm blessed and grateful. I don't take that for granted one second. I enjoy the hustle and bustle and all that brings. Being a wife and a mom, professional, friend, all of those things. So that's who I am.
I love it. I love it. You
Who are
all
you
are
individually?
What was that?
Who are you individually?
Um, Individually, I am an educator. I actually have the opportunity to lead a nonprofit here in the state of Mississippi, Mississippi Reading Roadmap, where we provide high dosage after school literacy tutoring. Um, and we are in the Mississippi Delta right now, but hopefully we can spread across the state of Mississippi and other states. So right now I'm just in the zone of strategic partnerships. We just blessed to have two large grants that's going to serve two school districts. So I've been doing that. I've been a high school track coach. Um, I mean, I love to laugh. I love to go out. I love to travel. I love to eat. I love music, and I'm a creative. I love to write. And it's a lot of things I could say that I am. It's hard, to be honest with you. It's hard talking about me because I feel like I'm not a monolith, right? I don't fit into just one thing. I like a lot of stuff. And and so I could talk all day in circles about all the stuff that I like. But since I know our time is limited, I'll just say that me personally, I'm a family man. But I have I have a great love for people in general, especially like the youth. But I have a great love for people, and I'm a son. I'm a PK, and I don't know. It's just so much that I could say that God has blessed me to experience and to be. But overall, just a child of God who's an educator, who loves the Lord, who loves the church, who loves his family. Um, my niece, I mean, whomever. Like I love people. So, um, that's pretty much it for me right now.
Okay, well, Sister Morton, we see you being a helpmate. We saw how you turned to him and said, and who are you individually? That's what we're talking about right there. That's beautiful, beautiful. So it looks like you all, it sounds like you all are just these amazing servants in the community that are doing great things in education and doing great things with your family and particularly doing great things in the kingdom. So tell us, take us back. How did you meet? And we want his version and her version.
Okay. You want to go first?
Um, so I first laid eyes on her at Lapton Street Church of Christ. I was attending Mississippi Valley State on a track scholarship, and um, we didn't have to go on the road that weekend, and so I took a Sunday off. I remember I was at Sycamore Street in Greenwood, and serving as the assistant minister there while in college. And I remember telling the preacher, I said, "Look, I'm gonna go with one of my friends over to Mount Bayou. I'd heard about Mount Bayou. I'd heard how it was just this landmark within our fellowship." And so I was just, excited to go, and I went. And so after Dr. Jackson had preached a powerful service, it was a high-spirited service. And I remember a lot of people came down front to respond to the message. Um, and so I had to get off the front row and sort of stand in the corner because it was standing room only type of thing. And so they allowed people to come down front and sit. And all I know is I looked over and I saw like this real fine, you know, uh, pretty and fine, right? So
Was she fine?
uh
Was she fine, Brother
yeah,
Morton?
yeah, she was fine.
What now?
She
It,
said was.
it,
Don't
and
don't
still
don't
is,
do that.
huh?
All right, yeah, yeah,
Wait.
yeah.
Okay.
But
So,
yeah,
so you,
so
so you
yeah,
weren't drawn in by her spirituality
was
initially.
was fine at the time. That doesn't
Uh-huh.
mean she's not fine now. I'm speaking back then. So
Thank
she
you, sir.
she she was fine. She was fine. And so I was like, wow. And um I had never seen in the church. I've been in the churches of Christ all my life, and I hadn't seen anybody that really, caught my eye like that was in my age range. And so a couple weeks later we get back to campus, my friend and I go up to his room. We stayed in the same dorm. And I was like, man, so who was that girl, man? And he said, yeah, I knew you would probably ask about her. And so he called her on the spot and was like, look, my homeboy T, he wanna meet you if it's okay. And she was like, yeah, it was cool. So apparently she saw me too, but she wasn't gonna say nothing. I wasn't gonna sweat her, she wasn't gonna sweat me. Uh, but we ended up, she was at Tougaloo, she was a freshman, and I was a sophomore, I believe. And so she came home to Shelby Broad Street, and she came home, and it was in November, I believe. It was like the first Friday of November. And met her in the gym. And when I met her, I was like, shot my shot, so to speak. And she was like, well, he has my number. And she tried to walk off, and I remember grabbing her by the arm and was like, you know, uh, I don't quite remember everything I said, but I knew deep down in her spirit she was feeling me, right? So I waited about 3 weeks before I even called her. And when I called her and she was like, "Oh, I thought you forgot." I knew then. I was like, it's a wrap. It was a wrap. Because she was waiting on me to call. So and really the rest has been history. Uh, because she couldn't resist the mouthpiece and all of the chocolate. But we started as friends. We started as friends, and it developed. So we were friends before we even dated, because I was pledging and I couldn't see her. We couldn't go nowhere. So she was in Jackson, I was in Itabena. So all we had was phone conversation for months, like 6 months. And so the rest, that's how we met, that's how we started. Um, and it was
Okay.
at church.
At
And
church.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what's your
Yep,
story?
Sister Morton, come on in here. Come on in here. Were you mesmerized by the chocolate?
So about 90% of that is accurate from my point of view. He is, we first saw him at Lambton Street. All that is correct. Um, I remember speaking to him in passing at Lambton Street. He doesn't remember that, but as he was leaving, I can just about remember where we were standing in the sanctuary and everything. And so we, just hello in passing. And just as he said, one of our mutual friends contacted me. He was like, my friend wants to meet you. And I told him, I said, well, I'll be home for the first basketball game. I just graduated. I was a freshman at Tougaloo. So going back to the first home game was a big deal. I played basketball. So that was kind of like, you got to go back for the first home game. So I went back. That was in November. I told our friend to let him know, I'll be at the home game. We can meet then. And so I will say, I remember like getting dressed for the game. I was like, okay, I gotta, put my best foot forward. Again, I didn't know much about, I didn't know anything about him. But of course, I remember getting dressed, being extremely cute for the ball game. We would sit in the gymnasium on the stage is where the athletes sat. And so I was sitting on the stage, and I was sitting on the stage. You could see people as they come and go in the gym. So I realized, I saw them come in, so I had eyes on him. And I was like, okay, game went on. At the end of the game, we were outside of the gym. He walked up to me, he introduced himself, and, we talked, and I remember looking him from head to toe and thinking, okay, I like, but then I saw something that I didn't like. And of course, we laughed about that for years. But he asked me, he talked, he asked me for my number, and I told him, our friend, he has it. And in my mind, if my friend gave him the number, I was thinking, he's vetted him, he knows him. So if he gives him the number, he must be a pretty up and up dude. He wouldn't give my number to somebody who wasn't gonna be who wasn't gonna do right. And so he did. Habari gave him my number. And I remember waiting. I don't know how long, but I do remember waiting for him to call. And so when he called, I was excited because I was just interested in the possibility, because what I did not know and what I had not experienced previously, I was a church kid, through and through Sunday school, morning worship, evening worship, gospel meetings, fellowships, ladies' days, all of that stuff. So I had not come across another Christian, another young man my age, because of course all the guys at the church, my home church, we grew up like brothers and sisters. So it was the idea of dating someone there was just not a thing. And I had not come across anyone quite like him. And so I was interested and excited about the possibility. And we talked for many months on the telephone. That's what we had. Like he said, he was at Itabena, I was in Jackson. So we spent a lot of time just getting to know each other. I think I kind of memorized his class schedule. He memorized my class schedule, and we would just talk on the phone. And he was extremely funny. I remember that, like, we would sit on the phone and we would laugh and laugh and laugh. He was intelligent, like super smart, somebody who just introduced, we could talk about all kind of random things, trivia, sports, world events, ministry. That was a big thing. I was worshiping at Hanging Moss at that time. He was at Sycamore. And so, we had those things in common. So it was refreshing to have someone like mine, like age, and just, again, the possibilities of what that could become. So that's how we met. That's how we met, long and short.
Okay. I love it, you all. I love that you all were.
Add something.
Yes,
Look, I need
ma'am.
to add something. We have been talking on the phone for months. And so because we were friends, I never mentioned to my mom or anybody, that I was talking to him. One Sunday, I was still at school, didn't go home that weekend. He went to Lambton Street. This was after we had been, we had met and we were talking. My mom had no idea, but she called me one Sunday evening and she was like, "I think I found your husband." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I knew he had gone to Lantern Street. So I knew who she was talking about. And so she was like, "It was this young man. He was there. He was visiting from Valley. And he prayed, and it was just something about him." And I was like, "Yeah," I described him. And she was like, "Do you know him?" I was like, "I do." I did. We've actually been conversing for months. And she was just like, it was that day. It was that day. She gave him my hand. He didn't know it, but after I told him, of course, yeah, I don't know if he was surprised or not, but my mom fell in like and intrigued with him, just because of his presence at that time. And she had no idea that we had even been introduced or even knew each other.
Wow. Okay. This is
But,
beautiful.
but I was in the gym first.
You were in the gym first?
I saw you come in. You didn't see me come in.
Okay.
But that's okay.
That's 21 years. That's close.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah. So 90% of your story, right?
Look, check us out.
Did you all hear how Brother Morton's voice dropped down really low as he's replying to her reply about this meeting? I
And look,
love it.
don't start no mess.
I won't start any mess. I'm not starting any mess. I just love the love, y'all. This is beautiful. This is
No, I'm
beautiful.
just playing with you.
Y'all, you got an amen corner in the chat, y'all.
Love
This
it.
is beautiful. Okay, you guys. So then tell us, how did it progress from meeting to marriage? What happened? How did you get from meeting to marriage? Let me
Uh,
ask a clarifying.
uh,
Okay.
well, we dated 6 years. And she was literally like my friend. She was my friend. Um, I remember, without trying to get my fraternity in trouble with that, but it was a hard journey. And so I remember we had a week off, and it was during the state lectureship in
Mhm.
Jackson.
Mhm.
And I remember I was a little tired. I was a little out of sorts. You know, all those things that come with that. And so I was there, but I was in the room. I had like a sinus. flare up or whatever. And so I was I was staying with on what called that's who I rode to Lantern Street with that time, the first time I went. And so um staying in the room with him, and everybody was down. They were going across the street to go, and I couldn't move. I was too sick. I was too sore. I was all that kind of stuff. And I remember she came back with a bag of Skittles, which is my favorite, and some sinus medication. And I didn't even ask her to do that. And I was like, all right, I just like, okay, I just mental note, hit it in my heart type thing. But then I remember my probate, and I don't want to seem like I'm just all just talking about the the fraternity, but it was around this time, right? So my probate, um, she surprised me. She drove, her and a friend of hers from Tougaloo drove all the way to Itabena. Probate had to be at 7 o'clock. We probably probated later than that because we had some other just other stuff going on before that that led to the probate show. So after the probate, everybody's on stage, everybody's just, running. We were receiving gifts and other things. And I look over, something tells me to look over, and she's standing right there. And I'm like, what? And this is, and I'll tell you this, like, uh, she saw other, other, young ladies or other, women giving me attention, all of that. It didn't phase her. It didn't make her turn around. It didn't make her, say, oh man, I don't want to, talk to this guy anymore. I mean, because we weren't really official. But she saw that, and I remember sort of like excusing myself from all of that. And I was like, let me walk you to your car. And I remember walking her to the car. I'm to my left, everybody. You remember that? Okay. I left everybody, walked her to her car, and I remember sort of like being just on a natural high that somebody would do that, without it being any, there's no strings attached, nothing like that. I was just like, she's solid. And then we saw each other in person, I think that summer, and I think the rest was history. I had a roommate from Canada. He left in April before the semester ended. He left in April. And when I would talk on the phone, he would talk to her. And he was like, we become real close. And I remember he was getting ready to leave in the middle of the night. Our track coach was getting ready to take him back to Memphis to catch a plane to go back to Canada. And I remember he said, he was like, I love you, Monique. And she was like, oh, I love you too, so-and-so. And I remember saying, you don't love me? And she was like, yeah, I love you too. And I was like, nah, I'm talking about love me, love me. I ain't talking about no brother in Christ, sister in Christ love. And she was like, yeah. So that was the first time we said that. And from that moment, I believe that's when we were truly like official. Now, the journey to marriage, that it started, and then after I left, I moved back to Corinth, and then that's where my mom and dad was, and then they relocated over into Alabama, so I followed them at the time, and that put a little strain on our relationship. I mean, the distance, and all of that, and it was just sort of a rough time for me. But we hung in there, and it was some real defining moments. Uh, Good things happened out of that. Some challenging things happened out of that time in that season. But I think it's looking back at it now, like we appreciate those. Um, Even in those challenging moments, I still wanted to be around her. She wanted to be around, me. Um, Even if we didn't have much to talk about. It was just odd because I was watching her grow into a next level woman, and my growth seemed to almost be like I was going backwards, but it was just that God was doing something for me spiritually, that even I didn't understand at the time, and I don't think she understood at the time, but we did not let each other, get too far, you know. And I think after we sort of worked through that, and still worked on it afterwards, but I think that's when I knew. I was like, okay, this the one. Um, and I remember my dad when he was alive, he told me, he said, man, nobody's perfect. He's like, if you're looking for a perfect woman, and he was like, you're gonna be single for the rest of your life. And he's like, no one's perfect. You're not perfect. Um, so I just think that from that moment of knowing that she was down for me, and I believe she knew I was down for her through the transitions, through the long distance, I think we had built enough, rapport with each other and enough love that it wasn't even, a second thought. At that time, it wasn't even a second thought. Um, the only thing that I sort of questioned was I really ready? Not if she was the one, but am I really, really ready, for this commitment? But we stepped out on faith. So, here we go, almost 15 years later. We're here. So I don't know. That's a lot of things. I don't want to get too deep and start exposing stuff, and she get looking at me crazy, like, but
This is a
but
real conversation. So I mean,
yeah,
that's part of our story.
yeah. Well,
Those
I'll
things
let you
are
tell.
part of our story. How did I know, or what made me feel, what made me know that this was the person that I wanted to be my husband? Was, I'm gonna just be frank, I would listen to him. I would listen to him. Um, I'm a strong, I have a strong personality. And I may be tough to deal with, depending on who's dealing with me, being honest. I had never, we met, I was
18.
I was 18. I was 18 when we met. So he was my first relationship in the sense of, really, really growing and learning and listening to someone. And the fact that I listened to him, like I was pretty spoiled and I was used to having my way. And you really, you couldn't tell me a whole bunch. I just was not interested, just being honest. I was not interested in being told what to do, or even not so much what to do, but to be told something that could potentially be beneficial. I was just, a little stubborn in that regard. And the fact that I would be open to what he had to say, well, what do you think about this? Give me your point of view. And he was able to do that. He was able to help me see multiple sides of the same situation. and I was open to listening to him. I was open to learning from him. And that was something that was foreign to me. But it also, it intrigued me. It let me know that it was something special. I got to see over and over that it was something special about him. And it was not the same thing. You know, it wasn't the same thing that was special. His intellect, yes. His ability to just communicate a thought, his ability to go from a gut-busting conversation and laughter to praying for me because I'm getting ready for a big test, or, you know, sitting down for hours discussing, you know, what his sermon was going to be about, you know, his sermon prep and what was going on with him in school as an athlete and that sort of thing. So I was just constantly intrigued by different layers of who he was. And I really think that the distance was major in the sense that we got to spend a whole lot of time just getting to know each other. I mean, getting to know each other through conversation, getting to know each other through laughter and just fun. The two of us are probably two of the silliest individuals that you'll ever encounter. And that was something that's important because I mean, I enjoy laughing. I enjoy laughing. I want to have a good time. And Brother Morton can be serious, but he's also like, he's a clown. And so the fact that we could enjoy each other as well as he could enlighten me, that went a long way. And I would do things without even thinking, you know, in my mind, when we were at the lectureship, he wasn't feeling well. You know, I'm just thinking, okay, he's not feeling well. So I know he loves Skittles. Let me just go grab him something, see, you know, he can't come out and you know, go to the workshops and fellowship. Everybody's out having a good time. Go and just, you know, take him something, maybe, you know, sit with him, hopefully he'll feel better. It wasn't like, you know, I'm trying to lock him down and he gonna know I'm the one. It never crossed my mind. It was just kind of like, this is somebody you care for. This is somebody he's a good person. You know, you're a good person. Those are just the kinds of things that you would do. And so it came naturally. You know, it wasn't until years later that, you know, we had that conversation and he told me, you know, how that was something that stood out to him. Um, with the probate, I was online with him. You know, we went through that process together. So I felt like, you know, being there, when it's people you care about, you show up for them. And so that was just me. I knew that was a moment for him. So I was going to show up for him. It was those things that they were small things, but they came naturally. I never, it wasn't my plan or my intention to do things to earn brownie points. That's genuinely who I was. That's genuinely what I felt about him. And I wanted to communicate that through my actions because, mind you, we had a good 2 hours between us, you know, so if I had an opportunity to show up and let him know, you know, this is my friend, you know, you're someone that I'm really, really into. So those were things that just came naturally for me. And I remember that conversation in April with the roommate. You know, when the awkward "I love you" came about, even though it was very awkward, but it was again organic. Like we didn't have to, it wasn't, you know, like, okay, so do I say it now? Do I say it? Is he gonna say it back? It was never those kinds of things. So much of our courtship was just really, really genuine and authentic. It just happened. It just happened. We enjoyed each other's company. And because I enjoyed it, I wanted more of his company. And with more of his company became more of interest, and more interest, more intrigue. And yeah, so that is how I knew. And honestly, I knew because I would listen to him that he was going to be someone that I had a future with, because I would listen. He could tell me things when I had never had that before. So, yeah.
And one of the things that I think um one of the things that sort of stuck out was like, you know, you shared some um really personal information. Like you felt comfortable. I mean, we weren't even dating, but just in the conversation, like you sort of peel back an onion and you entrusted me with that particular information. Um, and it was almost like it was a release for you, and I was able to be that. So the fact that, you know, the fact that you trusted me like that, that was attractive.
You were a safe space.
Yeah.
You were a safe space.
And I think
I felt like I could really genuinely be myself, you know.
right. And I think that's, what a real man wants in a relationship and wants from his woman is to feel as if no matter how strong or how dominant, we want to feel the softness, the softness from a woman. I love a strong woman. My mama's a very, strong woman. Strong women are in my family, in her family. So that doesn't intimidate me. Some men don't like that, but that's attractive to me, actually. But at the same time, what's more attractive is that you know how to balance femininity and masculinity. Because at the end of the day, I'm a man's man, right? So the fact that, you can be very, very, what's the word? Not insecure, but when you're very fragile, maybe fragile or not fragile, but when you vulnerable, that's it. You can be very vulnerable with a man. Yeah, yeah.
I'm helping you.
Yeah. It's a cookie over there. Go get you a cookie. All right, so but that whenever my wife is vulnerable, uh she knows that I got her. Um I got her. And so the fact that she did that even before we were even serious, I was like, okay, it's something that she's tapping into me that she don't even know she's tapping into. And so that gives me a safe space, because I love to do that. I love to provide, I love to protect, I love to guide, I love to direct. And so that pretty much sort of wooed me and got me was the fact that there were times in our dating that she was very, very vulnerable. Everybody saw the go-getter, the tough, the very smart, the very, industrious uh Yolanda. But I got to saw the gooey side, right? I got to see the Pillsbury dough in her, you know what I mean? I saw the Laffy Taffies, but and that's something I can just encourage other couples, or people who are, prospects into relationships, is that there has to be a balance. And you have to know when to shut down that bark, you got to know when to, you got to know your partner's triggers, and you have to be intentional about doing that, and that took some time, I think with both of us, and that can bring a challenge too, because it can bring a lot of resentment. especially if, because partners most of the time think that, spouses think that, they pretty much got their stuff together, they need to fix their stuff. And whenever it's like that, you will be living in a low place until you can humble yourself before the Lord. Because this is a God thing. This is a God thing. This is a God thing. So if you're not ready to humble yourself, if you're not ready to sacrifice, if you're not ready to swallow the ego, it's okay to be single. I tell people that all the time. Like, that's a calling too. And even Paul said that, being single, you can devote most of your time to God. I have to devote myself to not only, me as a person, but her, 3 kids, church members. So I'm spread thin, but we have to be intentional. And you can't do everything. You don't know everything, and you can't read your partner's mind. You can't read your partner's mind. I don't know if I'm getting into the next question, but I just felt led to say that you cannot read your partner's mind. And that was something I think we both struggle with. Because we were like, man, I'm doing this. We've been together for so long. Why can't you just catch up? Why can't you get it? But you can get everybody else. You got this intuition for everybody else. But then with me, I'm lacking. And it could just be that they need a reminder, you know? So that's, we good on that? We think you answered that? You answered that sufficient?
Oh, I think so. But I did want to add that like I said, we started dating in undergrad. It was time for me to select grad schools. And we were at this particular point, we had been dating close to 3 years. And I had grad school options, out of state, in state, out of state. And I got accepted to all the schools I applied to: Texas, Alabama, and Mississippi State, and Starkville. At that time, he was in West Alabama. And so I remember, and I do not regret this. We were dating, we were not engaged or anything, but I made the decision to go to Mississippi State because I wanted to be closer to him. We had spent 3 years already with 2 hours distance between us. Going to Starkville made that distance a little, maybe 30 minutes shorter. And so I made that decision while we were dating to go to state so that I could be closer to him. So at that point, I knew, this gentleman, I wanted, I saw beyond a courtship and a relationship with him. I saw a marriage.
That is deep. You all have been touching on some really, really amazing things, and I definitely want to amplify them in this moment. This idea of being vulnerable with your partner, and then Sister Morton, you're mentioning even vulnerable in your decision. Like, you all were not engaged, but you said, I'm going to make this decision to prioritize the well-being of this relationship. I think that many times we as women have been taught so much. Don't let a man run your life. Don't let a man do this and ruin your life and make your own decisions and do all these things, that sometimes we forget that what we invest in relationships are what we often will get out. And we're afraid to make that investment because of not just individual hurt, but a community, a collective of hurt from men, right? And so we're making these decisions. Sister Morton, was there anyone who was telling you, don't do that? Don't make your decision based on where this man is? And how did you respond?
I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them that that was the reason that I was going. I didn't feel the need to get the approval of anyone. because that was a decision that ultimately was going to affect me. Going to Starkville, I did not see it. It wasn't any, it could, in my mind at that time when I made that decision, there were no, there was no way for me. I was still going to be able to achieve my professional goal, which was, going to that university. If our relationship fizzled out, I still would have had my degree. And it would have been that I still did, or I positioned myself to nurture that. And if it did not flourish, I would have been okay with that. And I did not share with anyone why that was the school that I selected. I had a sister.
Not even me. She didn't even share with me.
Mhm.
That was the reason.
I felt like I think that in hindsight, if I would have told people, I may have gotten some of those negative, I may have gotten some of those negative, some of that negative feedback. But I said a moment ago, I'm strong-willed and a little headstrong. And so I knew what the end goal in my mind was. Number one, to get my degree. Number two, my husband is closer to that location. So that's where we're going. I think sometimes we have to, when we're making decisions, those decisions don't require a cheering section. Sometimes we have to make decisions that are going to be for our good and for our benefit. It was not a decision that I took lightly. I counted the cost. And I knew I had gone through the possibilities, and I was okay with each one of them. I was okay with how each of those outcomes would have how they would have turned out. I was okay with that, and so I was able to make that decision without any distractions. I don't know. I don't know if my family would have tried to steer me in one direction or another, but I did not want to give room for it. I didn't tell him because I didn't want to scare him. I didn't want him to think like, you coming over here to lock me in. I didn't want, no, that wasn't my intention. I really, that was a decision that I made. Through the process of praying and counting the costs from start to finish at each one of those locations. I am I'm a strategic person in the sense that when I make decisions, I have, I'm consulting with Christ. How will you get the glory from my actions? How will me being in this space help me to expand those things that I'm here to do for you? How I can be a blessing as a result of me being in said space or me making this particular decision. So I didn't consult with people because I didn't want their distractions, because God had given me the okay. I had the okay from him, and I didn't want other people to come in and that be a distraction for me. And then now I'm trying to hear the voice, decipher between, okay, well, is this really a God thing, or is this a mama thing, or is this so that was, yeah, I didn't tell anybody.
Amen.
I bear that one all on my own,
Mm,
along with the Lord.
amen. Wow. Definitely want to read one of the comments. Someone amplified what you were saying. She says she also made a decision that would work for her regardless. She didn't abandon or compromise her goals. I love that you're mentioning that this strategic idea. And I think for all of us, it is so important for us to be strategic in the way that we are thinking about our lives and thinking about who it is we're going to partner with, right? Not just, oh, he likes me, so, or oh, he's this, but really, the first thing you said was, how can I edify and glorify God in the kingdom, right? And so, and then the next thing was, I didn't open myself up to everybody's opinion and critique. And I think so often our strength in the Lord is not where it needs to be. So we have to have a cheerleading section, right? And so I really appreciate you really reiterating that even in this thing of love, the word says that in much counsel there's wisdom, right? There's wisdom in much counsel. But also, the word says, but there's a spirit within a man, right? And within a woman. And so that's what I hear you saying. Like, in this matter, going to God first and not looking to be filled by the approval of others. So I want to amplify that. That's so beautiful and powerful. And I believe that the Lord honors that and honors that faith. And I believe that that's what Team Morton seems to be about, you know, walking in faith and God honoring that faith. All right, you guys. So tell us, what were some of the expectations that you had of marriage before you got married? Either of marriage itself, expectations of your spouse, expectations of yourself that you had in marriage, and how did those change over time?
Okay. I thought marriage was gonna be a cakewalk. My expectation was that it was going to be, this was my friend. We just gonna stay together and have really, really big fun. And the reality is, it is fun. It is big fun. I am getting to do life and share life with my best friend. However, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's work. It is work. However, the rewards, um, wouldn't trade it in, but I think just kind of on the outside looking in, I mean, as a girl, seeing marriages, I did not, and this is one of my harsh realities that I shared with him during our courtship. I did not see a lot of healthy marriages. Saw a lot of marriages, but I don't remember seeing healthy marriages to where I was like, you know what, that's goals. And this is my truth. Um, and so I remember thinking, I don't really know all the right stuff to do. I know a lot of the wrong stuff not to do. Like, I saw enough of the not to do list, but I don't quite know enough of what to do. And so I just really just kind of felt like it was just going to be one of those just natural fall in place type things. But it didn't. It didn't. It required a lot more work and intentionality. Than I expected. So for singles or individuals that are aspiring for marriage, I want you to know it is such a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. I would do it again with this gentleman in a heartbeat, but know that it is work. You have two amazing individuals that are about to merge their lives into one space. And that requires some work, that requires some compromise, that requires some tough conversations, that requires humility, that requires you sometimes not having your way. That requires you really, really having to do the work, so that you all can have that big fun. That you know that was one of the things that was important to me, to actually enjoy my marriage, to enjoy my spouse, to have somebody I could have fun with. And we really do. But we also have to have some conversations sometimes that we don't want to have, but they're necessary. I get some no's that are necessary. I get some yes that are necessary. So I did not expect the amount of work and the ongoing work. You think, okay, well, year one, year two, they're at no point are you going to be able to just rest on what you did previously. Marriage it's constant work. It's constant work because you're evolving. We're evolving. I'm not the same person I was in 2009, and neither is he. And so just because we had a good 5 years, that didn't mean, you stop working. Continue, be prepared to do the work continuously so that that union can continue to stay as such. Because as individuals grow, if you can just kind of visualize a tugboat situation, if one is, we're growing, and so you may be pulling in one direction or the other. You can't just say, okay, well, I mean, I've done all the pulling I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna be still. It's gonna require that you continue to do the work to pull that thing back in the direction in which it needs to go. So I didn't expect the amount of work. But I will say repeatedly, it is a beautiful thing. It is a God thing. And it is a special thing, but it requires constant work on both parties, part to be successful, to stay as a unit.
And just to couple my thoughts with hers, if you are not intentional about truly working the way it needs to work, not the way you want it to work. Let me clarify that. Not the way you want it to work, because that you're still operating in pride and selfishness. And it's not going to work. Pride comes before a fall. It's going to come before destruction. If you do not work efficiently on the relationship, you're going to have a partner that feels like an accessory and not an asset. If you do not work efficiently, your partner is going to feel like they're just this, high price luxury item that you can pick up and put down when you want, and that's not good. And I'm not speaking that just on the husband side toward the wife. I mean, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Nobody wants to spend the rest of their life feeling like, that they're lucky, you're just lucky to have me, and not truly appreciate it for who they really, really are. And so I think the expectation, what's interesting about our marriage is that we had our first child within our first year, right? And so just I guess didn't waste no time. It wasn't I guess you can say it wasn't our plan. I don't even know if we had a plan. I don't even know if we sit down and talked about when we want to have children or anything like that. And we were so excited when we found out. It was a couple months after our marriage, and so we had our first son within a year of marriage. And so my expectations maybe would have been they were a little different. I don't know about hers, but I wanted to experience sort of like dating on a more intimate level. And when I say more intimate level, because we were working now, we were working professionals. I was teaching school. She was a school counselor. So now we got a little bit more money to go and to travel just by ourselves and get to know each other. what one of the things, and I was just sitting here listening and taking it in because I really didn't realize, like, she didn't tell me that she was coming to Starville, right? For proximity purposes for us, because like during that time, we were sort of like it was a lot of tension. It was a lot of I try not to put us out there like that.
It was growing pains.
But it was growing pains. There was a lot of growing pains, and I felt some kind of way, because I'm gonna be real with you. I just didn't think she was into me anymore. And I felt like it was because the path that I was taking, God was taking me somewhere else. He was preparing me for ministry or something else. But I was, in my mind, I wanted to do something in law and in communications, like law school, entertainment. Sort of wanted to be an entertainment executive, and do things like that. Use my creative power to actually take artists that were unseen, people who were in the church, that kind of thing, and put them on that. And so during that time, we went through those growing pains. And so when we made the decision to, come back together and to move forward, and when I proposed, like, I was like, okay, now I got this job. We gonna be able to just kick it, travel, have fun, and be able to just like really do what we always talked about doing. And then when our family started, it sort of like went from her being just my ace, even though she was my ace, but her mind went into mama mode. And so I had to share her with this new bundle of joy. And at that time, the expectation was for us to really have more time together. Mm-hmm. And so for a long time, just being 100, like, I had resentment because, I felt like I was going to be either a second option, or, that was, and that could have been my own misunderstanding, but that's just where I was. And that was the expectations that I felt like were not being met on my end, or what I wanted out of the relationship. But I did want for us to be tight-knit, to grow together, to support one another. And I think we did that. Even through all that, like, there was nothing, she can tell you, and even as my schedule is busy, and I'm all over the place, parent, teacher conferences, she can count on one hand how many she's had to go to by herself. Doctor's visits, she can count on one hand. And this is over, our oldest is about to be 14. This is over 14 years, through it all. And so now we were able to overcome some growing pains. We're able to humble ourselves when it got really sticky, and we made some healthy decisions to get some clarity, to get some support. And from that point, like, it's like a whole different relationship. Like, I'm and I mean this, I'm into her more now than I've ever been. And I've told her this, so this is not, I mean, I want you to think that, oh man, he was just bad. No, but I truly, because there was a lot of deep-seated stuff that I couldn't really communicate, because I didn't feel like she was gonna hear me out. She has that mind, once she's locked in, is whatever. But I need to communicate my emotions, because if not, I can get beside myself too. So we're both like peas in the pod. We're both loving, we're both aggressive, we about that life, but But I was always taking that road of, okay, until I had to say this is not who I am. I've always been vocal. I've always expressed myself. That's what made her attracted to me, my strength. And so once I snapped out of what happened and what shoulda, coulda, and all like that, and got some help for myself, talked to somebody, got some counseling, did all of that, humbled myself, um, stopped pointing fingers, took accountability, um, for me, because I can't change her. I can disagree with her, but I can't change her. I can only change me. And so once I did that, thank God that we both sort of repented at the same time. And like, this is truly a greater experience than I've ever expected, because like we see each other now. We really feel each other now.
I think we're intentional.
Yeah, we're more intentional
We're
now.
more intentional
Yeah.
about meeting the other person where they are.
Yeah.
And you did say counseling, you said support. I wanted to go ahead and just throw it out there. Counseling is okay, Christian.
Yeah.
It is so, it's okay. It's a beautiful thing. And I will tell you what, it was year 12, maybe, or 13. And I just feel like we have been cheating ourselves for so many years before that, because it was a game changer. It was a game changer. We sat and had the most raw and necessary conversation with a stranger that made the best change for the both of us. It was and look, I know one of the question is coming up about challenges. I am going to say, yes, we seek the word of God, and be open, pray with your partner. Also, seek those counseling supports, sit down with someone. Something that I felt like, and we've shared this with, I've shared this with him before, is that in terms of having mentors, couple mentors, we don't have that. We don't have that. And so we have each other. And that was, I think that was probably at some point, maybe having an older couple, a more wise couple, just kind of pouring into us could have been beneficial, would have been beneficial, still beneficial. However, we did not have that, and we don't have that. So we were really learning as we were growing. And as a result of us learning as we were going, we were making some mistakes. And some of those mistakes, saying things we shouldn't say, not speaking when we should speak, not communicating and not being genuine. I think we were afraid to hurt each other's feelings, but us not hurting each other's feelings left us with the weight on us. And so not hurting each other's feelings, it hurt us. And so now I'm mad because he don't know that I'm mad, and he mad because I don't know he, and that's a weight that's unnecessary. That's a weight that communication can lift from you. And so that is a challenge that can present itself in a marriage, in a courtship, and in a relationship, that simply being real and authentic and having those tough conversations. It doesn't have to be hard. And you don't have to have those feelings of resentment. But if you don't do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, that's what happens. If that makes any kind of sense. Yeah.
It certainly does. It certainly does. That is so So wise and very incisive of you all to share that with us, around getting the counseling, around having the conversation, and not just carrying the thing on and on and on. And what you said about being able to share with your partner, or not being able to share with your partner, leaves you with a weight, and that weight seems to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. That creates a wedge between the two of you all. Whereas being honest in the conversation, it allows the weight to be off, and also for you all to be closer. I want to reiterate what Brother Morton said. He said, I'm more into her now than I ever was, right? And it really, I want to amplify that, because the work that you've done in your relationship and that you are doing, it is so beautiful. And it's so, you affirming that with the work, it brings you closer together, is sometimes what all of us need to be reminded of in our
Right.
relationships, all relationships. Yeah.
Mhm.
You want to say more about that? Why are you more into her now?
Um, I mean, I believe that, like I said, those internal barriers, those blinders, because I was seeking understanding, um, from her, but may not have been communicating properly. And and I think she was maybe seeking the same thing. I I think that I really, it's not anything that she has done, um because as a man, um I'm gonna take accountability and responsibility for me. Um and so I'm commanded to love her as Christ loves the church, right? Um and so that love, was painful. That love that was demonstrated, it's going to take sacrifice, it's going to take pain, it's going to take a lot of things. But once I realized that the pain has a purpose, uh and that trouble don't last always, that kind of thing. um Once I was able to process that within my own constitution, then there was I don't let anything get me so upset that I will go back to shutting down like I used to shut down, or just maybe spazzing out after I hadn't had enough, or maybe the same thing with her. Um, and we didn't do too much, and we still don't. We don't really go back and forth and argue a lot. We've never really, that's never really been our type of thing of just, going back and forth. But I think that just being able to appreciate who she is for who she is, because it's not her job to make me happy with my life. That's my job.
Mm.
And so once I communicated that there are some things that I've sacrificed, that I've given up, that's really healthy for me, because I was trying to make this thing fit. Because I really, getting into the marriage, like, we are so cool and so funny with each other and make each other laugh, that I wanted to share different things. But I like to go out. I like to experience different things, different food. She's more of a homebody, right?
Mhm.
She's more of a homebody. I like to go. I'm more sociable. I'm more extroverted. She's more introverted. Now that I've been with her so long, I think I'm becoming more introverted. I think she's rubbing off on me, but I think I'm just being more intentional about who I share my time with. Those boundaries, those healthy boundaries. Um, And so I think being able for her to just say, "Nah, baby, you need to enjoy yourself." I may not do this or have this going, you know, or like this, you know, but you go do what you do. You know what I'm saying? You go have your fun. You be yourself. Be T. And once I really felt it, and it wasn't just words, like I fell, I'm not gonna say fell in love with her, because I think if you fall in, you can fall out.
Mhm.
But I just love her, you know what I'm saying? And love her on a deeper level, just because she allows me to be the best me. And she knows I'm gonna do the same. And the fact that we know how to work together now, how to communicate. And I just vowed not to go back to that dark space in my heart anymore. I just, and she'll tell you, like, I will not allow anything to get me to the point to where I question, you know, if what we have is solid. That's not, no, that's of the devil, and I rebuke that. And so that's why when I say like I'm into her more now, it's like I can just see her clearer. Not that she's more visible. She's always been this person, but there were just some motes in my eye I had to remove. And while I was removing, she was removing hers, and I think we both see each other. And when we both see each other for who we are, then you know that's when true intimacy can take place.
Amen.
Good stuff.
You all are bringing it. Thank you so much. What role does God have in your marriage?
I mean, first, center,
Forefront.
forefront. Um, that's how we try to live our lives before our kids. That's what we try to set in front of them, the word of God. They don't have a choice, you know, of, you know, they gonna stay home or go to, you know, go to worship. No, you coming. You know what I'm saying? You know, I didn't have a choice. And I see the benefits of just having God first, even though we're teaching them to have a personal relationship, even while they're young. Um, because you know humans are humans, and church people they're made of humans, and they can be fickle. But that just because humans are fickle don't mean God is fickle. Um, but I think our decision making, when we get to the point where we're overwhelmed, we have to sit back and go, okay, let's pray about this thing, or let's look, you know. She has a cheat code because you know, she's with the preacher, right? Mm-hmm. So she has a cheat code. But no, but seriously, we try, and truth be told, we're not always obedient. Mm-hmm. When it comes to our individual lives, and even when it comes to the things of marriage and family, we're not always obedient. But the fact that God is first, when we're not obedient, we know where to go. We have direction. We know how to, you know, walk up, speed up, turn around, because we can always see him, you know. And so wherever he goes, then that's where we'll go. So
I'll add, I know who I am without the Holy Spirit. I know some of the choices I've made without consulting with Christ. I know some of those decisions, and I know where they landed me. So again, when you're intentional, you know, I communicated that we're intentional in our marriage. I'm intentional in my communication with Christ as it results to all things marriage and family. because I know I can be emotional, I can be high, I can be low, but I know if I consult with, or if I take a, step back, Yolanda, and what does the word say? Let that be the thermometer instead of, what you're feeling in this particular moment. Um, I was so blessed as a young wife. I was in a sister's Bible class, and this is something that I heard 14 years ago, and it still resonates with me today. The teacher, she said, we, instead of praying that our partner changes, pray that our response is according to God's will. And so that has been something that I have meditated on for 14 years. My response, God, is my response according to your word? Is my response according to your word? Are you going to get glory from my actions? And that's my thought process as I'm making decisions and as I'm moving forward. Will you get the glory from my actions? Am I pleasing to you?
Amen. That's deep. Mm. Not praying that our spouse will change, but that our actions, our responses, our interactions will be pleasing to God. That's powerful. That's powerful. That takes the focus off of what she needs or he needs to be doing differently and off of, Lord, what is my heart posture? That's so beautiful. I love that you said, also, Brother Morton, you said that we don't always get it right. We don't always obey, but we know where to come because we know where God is. That is so powerful. So you all, I
Mhm.
want to ask you as we're wrapping up, I want to ask you these last two questions. Looking back, how would your current married self coach your single self in your desire for kingdom marriage?
In working, start doing the work yourself. Work on you. Work on you. Do the work, whatever that is. Deal with your stuff. Deal with your challenges, your baggage first. Okay. And make sure, you've done whatever work is necessary so that when if God presents that partner for you, you're able to receive it. You're able to walk into that season without hesitation, because you've done those things that are necessary to go and to be a wife, be a husband, because you have prepared yourself. You've prepared yourself professionally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You're whole and you're ready to join forces. You're not fragmented and trying to join forces, and you're still, going through some things. I think that was someone asked about those growing pains. Some of those growing pains were, we were really young when we started to date. We were still relatively young when we, 25, 26, when we got married. So part of those growing pains were trying to figure out who we were individually, but we're already in a unit. So that presented, that was a significant growing pain. So do the work as an individual, prepare yourself, know what it is that you want. So when you meet a partner, you can effectively communicate those things, and you're not waiting for somebody to tell you who you are and what you need and that sort of thing. You know what it is going in.
And I think I could probably answer the next question that you have for us with this question as well, because I'm speaking from experience, right? And so the advice that I would give myself at that time would be the advice that I would still give any single now. And that is know what your purpose is. You may not know the exact manifestation of what that purpose will look like or what it will be, but truly seek God to know why he brought you here. My whole thing is, if you could go 100 miles per hour toward your purpose, and you look to your left or to your right, and that woman or that man is there, that's who's suitable for you.
That's good.
I think that what we do is we sort of dumb down our purpose, ourselves, to fit somebody because we don't want to walk away, either because we don't want to be lonely or we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't want to look like the bad guy or the bad girl. All right. And not realizing that if you're compromising your purpose, you're going to have to keep compromising your purpose because that person did not fall in love with the God in you. That person fell in love with what you can do for them and how you make them feel. Marriage is not really about feelings more than it is about partnership and dominion. Adam and Eve were supposed to have dominion together. It's about glorifying God, doing his work together. All of the other things, that's gravy. You know what I'm saying? I get to look at a pretty face. I get to, you know what I'm saying? I get to have my fun with her. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if she's going against my purpose, then I would have to ask myself, like in the words of Tyler Perry, why did I get married? Right? If you got married, or if you're getting married, or if you're wanting to get married, but you're doing it because you feel like you've reached a certain plateau in age and you may be wrestling with value and all that kind of stuff, ain't nobody gonna want me after this. God will give you somebody at whatever age that's for you, that has your values, that can lead you, or that can submit and then lead, go back and forth. Do not compromise your purpose. You do not compromise your principles or anything. So one of the things that I would say that I wish I had more confidence in what I knew my purpose was, because there are so many different things that I could do, and I was so many different things I was interested in. You know, I think she's more of a linear person, you know, from point A to point A, B, C. Like, you know, if she can see it, I'm more spatial. I'm more, you know, of the big picture, the big vision. And we've learned how to complement those things, right? And that's even more beautiful. But I wish that I could have maybe chased my purpose, even if it said we got to stay maybe, hey, maybe, you know, I don't know. If God got us together in his will, it'll come back. But I think that one of the things entering into, just real talk, one of the things that entering into the relationship, I sort of questioned, and it sort of compiled and compounded over the years, and she didn't even know it, but I felt like that I had given up a lot of who I was for the sake of a unit. But you know, that's hindsight is 2020, but it has a great purpose to give you insight, and your insight can give you foresight, right? So I would just say go hard after God. Ask him to show you, why are you here? Chase after those opportunities that will bring that purpose into fruition. And whomever can be found suitable in that regards, that's a candidate for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it because you want a baby, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, that's some work to do.
You got some work to do. Because if you got married for children, what happens if you can't have them? Now you're stuck with somebody that, as James says, the glory of man, the flower withers and the glory of man, it fades away. This is going to fade. So what's going to keep me with my boo thing when we wrinkled up and we stiff, we putting icy hot patches on each other.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I know that no matter what I've got, she's going to support me. She's not going to do anything antithetical to my mission. And the same thing for her. I'm her biggest cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same for me. And so I would advise to get people who can stand all of your power, all of what God has given you. You don't need anybody jealous of you, anybody that's going to shy away from that. But you got to be comfortable. That's what I would advise single people now, or people who are in relationships now, because the scripture says, what God has put together, let no man tear apart, right? But what I've seen a lot of times is, we're trying to keep something, from tearing, that God never put together. And that's wasted energy. That's wasted energy. So, yeah, I'll preach if you want me to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
That's good.
but that's just what we've been able to experience, and what I've been able to say honestly to other people who ask. Is find yourself. Let God show you who you are. Not self-seeking, but or not self-serving, but you do need to be self-seeking. You got to seek to find who you are in God, and whomever is there to take you to the next level, that's your partner for life.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. This has been amazing. Absolutely amazing. Last question. Do you have any advice for those who are married, who may be going through a challenge, or who may even be on a high, and there is a challenge just around the corner? Got any advice for our married couples?
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Um, while she's thinking, um, I think we stated it earlier. I would make counseling not something that when it goes bad, when something goes bad, not a staple that you utilize when things go bad. But I would seek um counsel continuously for maintenance. Um Also, make sure that you're not surrounding yourself with people who are not honest. If you are only going to people that you know that are going to tell you what you want to hear, then that's not healthy. So that's why I say I would encourage people to have an objective voice, because sometimes family will be a little biased, and will gas you up to a point to where you by yourself. So I would say get an objective voice, or an objective ear. Let me say that, an objective ear. Thank you, Holy Spirit. An objective ear, because you want the voice of God. You want the voice of God to speak to you through you. An objective ear can be somebody who can hear you and sort of facilitate communication with your partner and with God. But that's the thing, you don't need too many people speaking into your relationship. Guard your heart. Guard your heart, set boundaries, and
I'll add, remember that things happen we have seasons. We go through seasons in our lives, and that those tough times and that those challenging times, it's a season. It's a season, and you weather those storms and those seasons. I think really getting, sometimes we're distracted by that current storm, and that we're not able to really, it's so cloudy, we're not able to actually see those beautiful seasons. We're not able to, you may need to just kind of step away and focus on, because it hadn't all been bad. If you're in a season that's challenging right now, acknowledge that as a season, do the work in that particular season, so that you can get back to where you would, to that desired space. Don't allow it to be an eternity. I sometimes with my students, I see, let's give ourselves time frame. How long are we going to be in this space? Do you want to stay here, or do you have plans to move beyond where we are right now? So if you're in a tough season right now, weather that storm, do the work, be that through praying, through fasting, through counseling, through positive mentorship, wholesome relationships, and encounter. Do that work in that season, so that you can get back to a space that you are happy, or a place where you're content and you're joyful in your marriage. Don't stay stuck in that space, because I think if you kind of dig your heels in and you don't move, that's where you'll stay. So, be intentional about moving forward, getting that weight or whatever that challenge is off you. But you can't do nothing. You have to do something. So be intentional about doing the work, and through whatever means you deem necessary, so that you can come from under that thing. Because if you've been in a marriage, you've been in a healthy marriage, it's worth it. It is worth it. It is worth it. It is worth it. It's beautiful. That union is so much more powerful together. And focus on how strong you are together. This is my partner, and I'm so glad to have been able to really do life the last 19-20 years with him, even in our courtship, because I feel like I'm better with him. I'm better with him. And so reflect on those seasons where things were amazing. I want to say this, because I think this speaks volumes to me. We have 3 children. All 3 of our children talk about marriage. 13, 9, 7. They talk about marriage. Everybody wants my sons, they want wives. They want children. They talk about their wives and their children. My daughter, she wants a husband and she wants children. And I, initially it kind of shook us a little bit, but I told them, I said, that's meaningful. And that's meaningful because we're their example. They see us. And so they see something in our union, they see something in our marriage that makes them want to have that. So we're doing something right because those little eyes see and hear everything. And because they desire that, that lets me know that we're doing something well. And I just wanted to say that because that is something that has blessed me. And it just kind of, it's encouraging from them to know that this is something they desire. And I know it's because they see how we interact and the union and the unity that we have. So, yeah.
Oh, glory to God. Oh my goodness. You have certainly just made my heart jump with everything that you have shared, but especially at the end here of your children seeing this legacy of healthy Christian marriage and desiring what God said is holy and undefiled. Oh my goodness. Glory to God. So at this time, is there anything else that you want to share with us as we close the interview?
No, that's I think that's it. I want to thank you for inviting us and thinking of us to be a part of this particular ministry that God has laid on your heart to do. And we hope that we've been a blessing to someone. Y'all just keep praying for us, and we'll do the same. We'll do the same for y'all. But thank you once again for bringing us on, and